2010 has been a big year for you. You took over as an editor. Your first book was out.
Yep.
When you look back at the year, what are the moments that you see as turning points? What are some key moments that you see?
Yeah.
I mean, you may not relate to the two incidents, but what do you see as turning points?
Yeah. See, in a way, the turning point for 2010 began in 2009. You know, when there was a time when after I wrote my novel, uh, there was a time when I thought it may not get published. You know, I think most first-time writers go through that phase, and suddenly, in a matter of 3 days, uh, things suddenly changed for me. You know, first Karthika of HarperCollins said that she will publish the book. That meant that I'm going to be published. You know, at least in India. And then no, she just read the book and she had not got back. And then suddenly she got back. And just 2 days later, when I had also sent the manuscript to Isabel Dixon of Blake Friedman, she got back saying that I want to represent you, and she sent a mail saying I think we can have fun with this. You know? So suddenly I was going to be published in India, and I had an international agent. You know, but then the funny thing about publishing is that what I've realized is that there are moments of hectic activity, and then long nervous silences. You know, when nothing happens, and then suddenly there is a lot of activity again. You know, so there was a long silence. I thought, okay, maybe I found an agent, I found a publisher in India. Maybe nothing is going to happen still because. At least from Isabel's side, there was silence. I thought maybe nobody else wants to publish it. But then suddenly she got back, and suddenly there was an auction. You know, suddenly there were 4 publishers who were interested. So I never thought, say, mid 2009, if I'm not mistaken, I never thought all these things were going to happen. And then it looked to me that 2010 is going to be a very interesting year. You know. And then again, the whole process of the launch, and then the reviews. The first, suddenly, I was exposed to Indian journalists in a way.
In a sense, you're a new insider.
Yes.
To two very different and
Exactly.
peculiar worlds.
Yes.
One is the book
Yes.
history world.
Yes.
And one is this Delhi political journalism
Exactly.
world.
Yes.
Because journalism in Bombay is still very different.
Yes.
I've lived in that city forever.
Yes.
I've just moved to Delhi in
Yes.
2010.
Yes.
And it's a very different
Yes,
world
nobody
altogether.
thinks he's a think tank in Bombay.
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
And their job ends at a certain point
Yes.
in the day. It's
Yes.
over. They stop being journalists
Yes.
at some point, which does not happen
Yes.
in Delhi ever.
Yes.
So you're a new insider in two very peculiar worlds.
Yes.
How's that been? What are
It's
your
quite
first
amusing. And actually, as far as the book was concerned, when the first call I got from a journalist was quite bizarre, because the person said, "Say something about the book." You know, so I thought, now that's a very unfair question to ask a writer, because I mean, if you're not read the book, it's all right. Don't call me. You know, but I understood the world, because by then I also knew that Indian journalism is going to be very gracious with me. You know, and journalists were. They were very generous and gracious, and
because you are a journalist, you felt like
probably because I was a journalist, but some of them also resent the fact that what you're trying to escape. You know, it's like, yeah, let's pull him down. You know, so all those things. While some journalists were generous, and they said, no, this is a guy who's written a book. Let's fully back him. You know, so all those things were happening. So that was very amusing. I had some hostile interviews, which also was very amusing, where the person who was interviewing me for the book had opinions and didn't agree with my view of my book. You know, which was, I thought, oh, now this is what other people must be facing from Indian journalists. So it was quite a world. You know.
I remember William telling me once that he got a call from 9 Lives saying, "Tell me something about the novel." Which
Yes.
is, I think, a degree worse than yours.
Yes.
Because not only was he asking him to tell him something about the book, he was also calling it a novel.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it was like, anyway,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
not a novel.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some reviews in India which have called non-fiction novels. You know, so and also when the quality of reviewers, I'm a beneficiary of the whole process. I've got very good reviews by very respected reviewers. You know, But the first review of Serious Men that appeared in Indian publications was in a news weekly, and uh, I only felt sorry for that reviewer. That person has to earn a living from a profession for which he had no talent. Because that review began with accusing me of plagiarizing from myself. Which is very deep. You know. So I thought, okay, all this is a part of the game, and this is how I thought people must have felt like when I used to criticize their films or various aspects of their personality when I was profiling them.
You can't mean that. You can't have. I mean, what you're talking about here is not criticism per se, but
It's a
this
certain
is
foolishness of
partial
a
criticism.
yeah.
But,
No, but the
you
funny
can't
thing is,
relate
those
to it
people
by
they
your
take
ideas.
themselves very seriously when they say these things. But anyway, I'm not being gracious because I mean, it is natural that writers would have more to say about the bad reviews than the good, and the overwhelming number of reviews after that silly review have been very positive and very intelligent, nice reviews. I'm on the whole, even though I've been amused and infuriated, and I mean, at times, I'm very grateful because I know Indian journalists, and I know that there are times when they are not generous and they are not gracious, and I'm happy I was a beneficiary than a victim.
More beneficiary than.
Yes, absolutely.
What about the whole journalism world, the political journalism world?
Of Delhi?
You're a new insider.
It's hilarious, you know.
It must
See,
be really amusing at this point.
it is very, especially because I'm from, I didn't grow up in Bombay, but Bombay is home to me. And even when I was in Bombay, my point always was that it is fundamentally flawed for Indian media to be headquartered in Delhi. And I used to visit Delhi very often, and every time I would visit Delhi, my views would be strengthened in this manner. And nobody in the Open magazine would have ever thought that I would ever move to Delhi, that such a situation would arise, and that I would accept the situation, and that I would move to Delhi, which I did. What amuses me the most about Delhi journalism, and then so my view is changing because I know more and more about it, and I really enjoy the sheer knowledge and the depth and the intensity of the conversation. But it is the conversation itself which I find amusing. The need to talk about the theory of Indian politics. See, this is a generalization. This happens in many cities, but the scale at which it happens is hilarious. I have seen 8 PhDs analyze a political act of a bunch of semi-literates. And that was the moment when it was very clear to me that political analysis of Delhi is exactly that. Highly literate people, sophisticated people, giving sophisticated meanings, okay, to a dumb act of some dumb people.
Which is not
I think Indian politics is overanalyzed. I really believe it is overanalyzed. In fact, once when I interviewed Raj Thackeray, he in fact hinted to me, that he didn't mean to make those statements against the North Indian migrants. There was an incident. There was an incident in Shivaji Park, and then he said something. He said it in Marathi, okay, it was first misinterpreted, okay, and then he began to see what was happening and how Delhi was reacting to it, because Delhi had immediately theorized it, because Delhi had to understand what was happening. And the way Delhi can understand what is happening outside Delhi is by analyzing it, and they thought, now this is what this person is trying to do, and this is a political move, and they went hysterical, and Raj Thackeray quickly saw the political advantages in using it, and he started playing it very well. And this is a city where gas, okay, the gas can actually get you somewhere. Conversations can get you somewhere.
That was going to be my next sentence. That also happens in Calcutta. I grew
I'm
up
not
in Calcutta.
surprised.
The difference is in Calcutta when these conversations are happening, the people having these conversations don't think that it can get them somewhere, that they can make a difference.
Correct. It's something.
The thing with Delhi is that they take themselves seriously because they think that whatever they are saying will have an impact.
Yes.
Their belief has a direct
Yes.
impact on what is going to happen.
Yes.
And actually, might just,
Yes.
as well.
Now, I've
So I think
spoken to
that
some
is
bureaucrats, all these off-the-record conversations. They also, politicians and bureaucrats, really play the journalists. They know that these people really think that they're policy advisors, and they really entertain them that way, And there are a lot of games going on all the time in Delhi, which is very amusing, It is a sitting duck novel,
Yeah.
waiting to be done by someone,
Two recent, one minor and one major controversies, ruckus that Open Magazine has created.
Yeah.
One was about books and literature.
Yes.
The other one was about the world of journalism.
Yes.
So in a sense, it was, the charity begins from home approach.
Yes.
Both belonging, both the people that belong to the world
Yes.
challenging that system. Is that a deliberate thing, or did
It's
that
not. It's not. See, it's just that I've always believed that when you want to tell a large, complex story, like say the radio tapes issue, after the Pioneer first told the story,
sure.
full credit has to go to Gopi of Pioneer. But I was just watching the whole thing, and it was very clear to me. It's something I always believed, that just like in literature, just like in fiction, and for that matter in non-fiction, even in journalism, when you want to tell an important complex story, it is always better to tell it through its most interesting characters. And when the radio tapes came in, it was very evident to me that nobody is going to be shocked by the conversations between a corporate lobbyist like Radia and Raja, which headlines today had carried a few months ago, and there was not much of a reaction, because people are immune. When I said these guys will do these things, it was obvious to anybody.
Rare instances of print, having a greater impact.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry,
So the whole thing was, businessmen and politicians do not have fans, but media personalities like Veer Sanghvi and Barkadat do, and it was very obvious to anybody who was listening to the tapes that these are the personalities, who are going to drive the larger story. More people got to know about the Radia, issue and the tapes and the conversation because they were interested.
Actually a very interesting take.
Because they were interested
in choosing the most interesting characters to tell the largest story.
Yes, and they were interesting because the media personalities were always protected by the media, which is actually understandable,
And they're just simply people, characters who people are more curious about.
Exactly, and they're genuinely curious, and yeah.
In a recent article that you wrote about Delhi and Bombay,
Yes.
You were sort of bemused by both cities in some parts, but you kind of dismissed Bombay as unreal, But you were.
Are you sure I said Bombay was unreal?
I think unreal is the word.
I don't. I may not have used unreal, but can you just explain your question? Then maybe I'll get.
See, my point is that I felt that you were trying to figure out if Delhi you could take to Delhi, but you were more dismissive of Bombay, already dismissive of Bombay. So is that does that relate to your quest of home? And do you think Delhi could become home?
No, Delhi will never be my home, because of.
Sorry, actually the thing is I have to rephrase this because maybe because it's a very personal question to me too. I've just moved from Bombay to Delhi. I think the question I'm really asking is, I couldn't figure out if you were being dismissive of Bombay and saying, it's no longer home, or it was the kind of disenchantment that you feel from something that belongs to you.
Exactly, you're right. It is my sheer love for Bombay. It is an extraordinary city. I can see all its flaws, and it has been destroyed by small men. Bombay deserved great people to run it. And there is a loss of modernity in Bombay. It's been brutalized by people who don't deserve to run a city like Bombay. It's just a great city, and we could have done a lot with that city, so it's a lament, that I have against Bombay, But the kind of people you meet there, a lot of things, it's a great place for a writer, because.
Of course, it's a writer's dream.
In fact, all the characters, even for example, I grew up in Madras. The funny thing about Bombay is that I can put all the characters I know in Madras, I can put them in Bombay. They will fit in perfectly because Bombay has everybody and more. So, but what my grouse against Bombay is that now, see, we can't keep blaming politicians. Okay? If you are a great city, we are talking about the people. But the people of Bombay have not fought against this atrocity, all those problems that Bombay is having. Chiefly, it's loss of modernity and it's extremely poor infrastructure. And as I said, the small petty men who are allowed to run Bombay, Bombay has accepted it. Bombay has taken it in its stride, and the corporates who benefit the most from Bombay, they're just being practical about things. So there is nobody is taking a stand, okay, against what is happening to Bombay. So I don't think anybody is going to rescue Bombay anytime soon. And that, by nature, when it comes to a lot of things that I see around my own country, I'm not. I'm very cautious of the word cynic, but I cannot be optimistic, okay, because as a journalist, you see what's going to happen, you know what's going to happen.
It's the worst profession to be in if you want to be an optimist, actually.
Yeah, but it's okay, it's all right. Sometimes I feel anger is a form of unfamiliarity with the situation. When more familiar you are with your own home, you'll stop feeling angry. You just use it as material in your own novel or do something, something like that. Yeah. But Delhi can't be home only because, see, I'm a Malayali who was brought up in Tamil Nadu. My youth was in Bombay. So Delhi to me is a very. There are too many islands. As I mentioned in one of my pieces, in Delhi, if you think of yourself or your friends, there would be thousands of people who have never walked down a street for something, unless they are in the middle of a morning walk or something like that, So I find Delhi, there are too many islands like a car and your own home, and I find it very strange, That's why I take the metro every day.
Yeah.
So, and suddenly inside the metro there is no Delhi. It's a very alien concept for Delhi, because you can't help it. That's the way metro is. I think metro might change a few things about Delhi. It's quite interesting. Someone should write a book about how metro is changed, because these are nuances of a city.
Yeah, but see, the metro is the antithesis of of what Delhi is.
Yes.
The local train in Bombay
Yes.
is actually symptomatic. of
Exactly.
what Bombay
You're
is.
absolutely right.
I'll go to serious men now. I'll start with a couple. The first question, I remember you saying in some interview that you were very surprised that you picked Ayan as a Dalit character, but you were surprised that is the one aspect that got highlighted the most.
Yeah.
Were you really surprised? Because if I was writing, I would be scared if I was writing a novel today, and if I said anybody was a Dalit, I would think even if someone was minor character, I would know that a lot of
I know what you mean. Yeah.
rhetoric would become about that character.
Yes. Still I was surprised, chiefly because the Iron Money character started off as a male rage. How would a very intelligent person, but a person who's also very unfortunate, look at the world? So the novel was supposed to derive its force from this anger of a guy, the restrained, male anger. Then I asked myself, what is this guy's problem? Because I really liked him in a way, and I fundamentally do not like people who are just grouchy, who have something bad to say, unless
So
it's
you
something
were
really
just
funny.
contextualizing
No, then
the-
I was asking, now why do I know this guy so well? I also knew him very well. Okay, I knew exactly how he would be thinking and everything. I just knew this guy very well. Then I understood that it was also largely inspired, okay, by the Dalits, the Dalit intellectuals also, whom I've met in Madras, met in Bombay in the course of my work. There is a way in which they look at the modernity of India around them.
Oh, so you're saying once you started writing the character, you traced back an influence and you traced back the influence to a lot of people you
Yeah,
met. who
it's
were-
like sometimes you see a person and you feel that you've seen the person somewhere, and Iron Money was something like that. I knew this guy so well, but the only thing I could not figure is like, why is this guy? Then
So you figured out later that he's a Dalit.
he has to be, because I knew these guys and I knew that only a historical rage a historical anger, can create a person like this.
And you were not concerned, it reminds me, Pamuk said somewhere, I think, that when Proust writes about love, he writes about love. When I write about love, I write about Turkish love.
Yes.
So were you not concerned that this rage, this pure male rage,
Yes.
would become Dalit rage? And that become
It is not.
confined?
It is not Dalit. It is a very.
No, in the way the novel is read, not,
Yes.
not in the way you've written it.
It was a concern because I'll be very honest with you. If someone told me now this is a novel about a Dalit, about Dalit problems, that's how people. How people are so precise in the description.
Yeah.
I will not read it. Okay. It's because I don't want to read a novel about the issues, and I want to read novels about other issues or no issues. I don't want to read novels about issues.
You said that
Yes.
you loathe social
Yes,
commentary in novels.
absolutely. I don't think this is the space for it, and it is in fact an artifice created by reviewers and book criticism. Okay, where to lend an element of social phenomenon, okay, to a story. There's nothing wrong with that interpretation, But then there are many things in a novel. A novel is so complex. It's like a personality, When a person says, "I like this novel," the person is also saying, "I like an aspect of the author's personality."
Sure.
You can't separate the two, and that is why it is such a, it's such a beautiful thing.
It's also why books are so personal.
Yes.
So that they can take a lot more criticism
Exactly.
where everything else is concerned, but the book is
Exactly,
because it's
So I was a bit worried. I was not worried, but I was. I
you
thought,
not be able to escape social
in a way,
commentary.
it would be
So-
presented even when it's presented favorably. Sometimes it sounded like a book I wouldn't want to read, So which is bizarre.